listen to the floor, to the floor.
Hello, welcome back to another pen talk. Today we're going to be discussing a favorite topic of mine, auctions that I've won on eBay. I saw this one on eBay and I bid what I consider to be a very reasonable bid, and I won it for less than that. So I have been collecting a number of these green Jade Sheaffer pens. I'm going to give you this as received look at the pen. I think they're in excellent condition considering their age and how they've been probably not restored or touched since they were first produced. The green Jade has a tendency to discolor and darken, but this one has done an excellent job. There's a slight discoloration here in the cap, but that's relatively minor compared to what I've seen. This is a white dot, so it's a lifetime Sheaffer pen. You can see some brassing on there, but that's nothing major. That's easy to clean up. There is what appears to be a slight crack here in the cap, but it doesn't appear to be active and it doesn't go past the band, so it also doesn't concern me. Unscrew the cap and you'll see here a beautifully large Sheaffer nib. Again, it's the classic oxidized and darkened from ink, but it's a gold nib, so it'll clean up fine. You know, there's the feed, classic Sheaffer feed. You know, the threads work well, so the barrel and cap fit together well. The other thing that's nice is the impression is fairly good in this pen. You know, it's really not as easy to see with this type of acrylic and the light that I have, but hopefully there we go. And as you can see, the last patent date is 1914, so this pen is probably from the early 20s. And to me, icing on the cake was getting a pencil of the same material. I think this may have been the matching pencil. I'll check my Sheaffer ads, and this is in similar condition. The celluloid is in very good shape. I haven't checked to see if the pencil works. Yep, it seems to work. That's beautiful. There's a full lead in it too, pretty much a full lead, so that's also very nice. And there's a lot of vintage pens. Someone has personalized it with their initials in the top of the cap of the pencil. I didn't find anything on the pen, but that doesn't mean anything. Some people may not have wanted to engrave the pen. And here is the Sheaffer branding on the top of the pencil. And again, we'll see if we can get the, boy, it's really fine there. Appears to be the same patent dates as on the pen. So that's kind of nice. So I think they are from the same, definitely from the same time period. You know, this could be referred to as a telephone pencil. You know, you would put that inside of the rotary dial. For those of you that are not familiar with rotary dial phones, you might want to look it up or Google it. So that's just a run through. It came in a nice envelope with some writing on it. You know, and here's that cap lip crack. But I think that's, to me, that's not really a major concern with this. So I'm really happy with this purchase. I'm happy with the price. I'll post to eBay. Just some people may not think the pen is a very large pen, but here it is relative to an M800, and it's, you know, about 3/8 of an inch, or, you know, maybe 8 millimeters shorter. It's about the same girth, which is nice. And the other thing I think that we'll find interesting, and I haven't done this, so this is the first time, we'll compare nib sizes. And that nib holds its own against the Pelican M800 nib. So that's, to me, is really nice. Well, here we are looking at my restored version of the eBay purchase I showed earlier. This is actually the original bladder that came with the pen. It's still fairly pliable, so I'm going to leave it in place. The nib was fairly oxidized or covered with ink. As you can see, it came out very nicely. These nibs pretty much survived the test of time. They're incredibly thick, as you can see. They're stiff. The advertising said go through 3 sheets of carbon paper, and I wouldn't doubt it can do that. The cap also cleaned up nicely. You're never going to get rid of the, the gold fill that wore away on the edge of the ball clip there. But the rest of the pen cleaned up nicely. It's the white dot, which came in 1924. When you look at this cap, it has 2 bands at the bottom. So from my research, I'd placed this at the tail end of these pens, which was 1928. The barrel also cleaned up nicely. And as we saw earlier, that imprint is fairly clear. And they use this imprint for a long period of time. And here's the pencil. And what I found interesting about the pencil is, this is gold filled. So unlike plated gold, it holds up well to age. And it also allows you to do a little bit of polishing on it. You're not going to be afraid of polishing off the gold. And the initial on the top of the cap. So in the clip, the Sheaffer has worn away the beginning letters, which are on that high end, the crown of the clip. But there's not brassing as we found on the fountain pens, so maybe these pens were kept in different places. And if you turn the top, the lead extends and retracts, so that's really nice. A lot of these older pens don't do that. So we're going to assemble this pen and then eventually ink it up, and we're going to compare it to some other Sheaffers and pens of the era. So here are some comparisons we're going to do. This is the pen I just restored. This is also another eBay purchase which I restored. It's the smaller version of the pen. You notice it has 1 band at the end of the cap, and the band was fairly well beaten up, but I was able to put it in place. This nib also required some extra loving care to bend it back into shape, but it became a very excellent extra fine writer. Here's another example, a single band, but this is that discoloration which has plagued these pens through time. This almost looks like whatever they used for the inner cap here didn't work well with the Radite celluloid that they got from Dupont, so it bled through. I mean, other than that, it's a very nice pen. The other thing I find interesting in comparing these pens is the nibs. So this is the one that has the cap. If you turn it over, you notice it's a very finned feed. This is more of a modern feed. If you look at the other pen, it has a more classic older feed from Sheaffer, but yet based on the cap, this pen is the newer pen from like 24 or 25, and this is from 28, but yet this one has a newer nib. So one may think that that nib may have been replaced. Both of these are lifetime nibs. Fairly good size. This one's a little bit broader and not quite as long. If you compare it to the smaller pen, you'll notice that nib is just slightly smaller, but still a good size nib for the pen, and these two are very fine writers. A lot of people take a look at imitators. Some talk about the Chinese imitating, but here's a no-name pen, which I would guess was a takeoff of the Sheaffer pen. A little bit lighter green, but a very similar material, but there's absolutely no markings on this pen, and it just has a warranted nib. But again, it has a decent sized nib on it. The warranted nib needs a lot of work. There's some tipping missing, and it's a little bit bent up, so if I was in the mood, I could turn it into a stub, but I think I'll just look for a replacement nib for that. Let's compare the green flat top with the next version of pen that Sheaffer came out with. Was kind of like the balance pen. Almost exactly the same length. The first versions were lever fill. They later on went to some type of vacuum or pneumatic fill. One of the things that's evident here is the way the clip was changed. The ball is gone. which is probably a good thing that it produces the wear, but it still does a very good job. Nice arch to it. Also, there's no imprint on the clip. You still have a white dot to emphasize the lifetime. If we open these up, you also see a similarly sized nib, but this is a two-tone nib. And if you turn them around, you'll see that it has that more finned feed that we took a look at on one of the other Jade versions that I thought had a nib replacement on it, and I'm pretty certain it did based on what we're seeing here. You know, both of the nibs say lifetime, but the newer one does not have a serial number like the older one did, so that's one of the changes that they made when they went to a new version. We have what looks like an ink window here, but what it is the section is actually clear. I have a number of pens in this vintage that have that feature in it, and they actually put like a black paint to obscure part of the section, so it just looks like a window. The other thing that's nice about these pens is the parts are interplaceable. So this is a cap that I found in my boxes, which fits very well on it, and I just find this designed to be exquisite. Nice to have a full pen on it, but I don't, so at least I can enjoy the cap. And it does make for a modern looking pen when used with the barrel of the black pen. And last but not least comparison is this is a Waterman 55, which is larger than the 52. And here's that Sheaffer lifetime, and it's a Waterman is a little bit longer, but if you open them up, the section is certainly different between the two. The Watermans have always had a thinner section. The Sheaffer has a much wider section, but shorter. The nibs are, the Sheaffer still dominates in the nib category, even though it's a number 5 nib there on the 55, and it is inked up. An example of some of the various forms and colors the Radite came in. All flat tops, all similar clips. The one here on the right has the 2 bands. These 3 have 1 band, so interesting. From Andreas Lambro's book on American and UK pens. This also shows the different colors that the green Radite came in, which is also shown in some of the examples that I have. Here's a Sheaffer ad in my Sheaffer 100-year book. Again, here's another different color that the pen came in. The golden age of the 20s. I've added different green inks recently, so this is Franklin Christoph Emerald 357, a very nice classic green ink. I think it'll work well in the pen, and I dropped the cap. So as we insert into the ink and we bring it up to the section, hear that it'll bring in some ink. We're going to do that 3 times. I'm happy with how the bladder is working. Scrape off the extra ink, wipe off the nib. So this time, the first time this nib has been put to paper by me. My first response is it's an excellent Sheaffer nib. We'll call it an extra fine. I mean, it is smooth. There's no reason to do any tuning or smoothing to this nib. You're certainly not going to get any line variation out of this. This is a nail. Like I said, it was designed to go and work with carbon paper. So I'm very happy with this pen. I'm certain a lot of other people who like a fine nib would be extremely happy with this. Just to compare it to the other pen, which I've restored recently, this is, I would call this an extra fine. As you can see, it is a finer line. And again, it's a very smooth writer. It's going to give you a little bit more feedback because of how fine that needlepoint nib is. So hopefully you've enjoyed another trip down nostalgia, looking at older pens and how they are. So thank you for viewing. May all your writing experiences be great. Until later, the end.